Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. Teams of animal rescuers have been feeding dogs in evacuated communities. Wildfire evacuees haven't been permitted to bring pets with them to hotels and were left with few options. Luckily, some have been volunteering to feed the pets that were left behind. Volunteers have been collecting trucks full of donated dog food and driving it to northern communities. Rescuers say that home is the safest place for dogs during evacuations because if they were to be removed, there's a risk of them getting lost.
We like to keep the dogs in town because as long as they're not a threat, we can manage to feed them all. And we've been doing a good job for the last, this is day 33 for me straight.
Dennett is based in Beauval and says teams are currently feeding hundreds of dogs in surrounding communities. A protest in Saskatoon over the city's decision to allow a controversial Christian singer's concert to go ahead turned volatile this afternoon.
Scoundrel.
That's weakness.
You're a liar.
Roughly 80 people showed up to Civic Square to protest Sean Foyt's upcoming concert at Diefenbaker Park on August 21st. As the protest was winding down, Mayor Cynthia Block stepped up to the podium as organizers grabbed the microphone and left. But roughly half the crowd stayed back and shouted at Block for over 10 minutes as the mayor waited for a pause so that she could speak.
Cynthia, you have to revoke the permit. It's too hard on our community. Can't you see? Can't you see?
I'm telling you my heart, and you can accept it or not. I'm here to help you understand why I'm an ally, why I want to fight alongside you, not against you.
Foyt is touring across Canada and has faced criticism about his views on the 2S LGBTQ+ community. Other cities have revoked his permits or canceled his events. Sexual Assault Services of Saskatchewan says an 80% cut in federal funding will mean less support for survivors of sexual violence. The organization raised those concerns after the Federal Department for Women and Gender Equality, also known as WAGE, outlined a significant spending cut in its latest departmental plan. Its budget is expected to drop from about $400 million to $76 million in 2027. WAGE attributes the decrease in funding mainly due to the planned end of time-limited funding. Meanwhile, Sask says the department's funding has been crucial in expanding programs, raising awareness, and supporting research on sexual violence. It worries many of those initiatives will now suffer.
I'm worried about the lack of dedicated space given to this issue, particularly in Saskatchewan. Given that we have the second highest rates in Canada, provinces like Saskatchewan see the impacts the most from such a big cut federally.
In a statement to CTV News, WAGE says no funding decisions have been made and that the organization is not cutting existing funding to SAS. Saskatoon police have concluded a 2-month investigation into high-level drug trafficking, which led to multiple arrests. Search warrants were executed at 4 residences around the city, including Duchess Street, Wollaston Crescent, Herald Road, and 22nd Street West. Police seized more than 100 grams of cocaine, psilocybin, Xanax, $46,000 cash, weapons, and vehicles. 19-year-old Wailadeen Abdallah, 21-year-old Ahmed Issei, 21-year-old Ali Nama, 22-year-old Javon Badu, 25-year-old Yahya Mohammed, and 29-year-old Ahmed Ahmed all face a variety of charges in relation to cocaine trafficking. Also, Saskatoon police making arrests following another drug trafficking investigation, this time on Saturday. Police arrested a 28-year-old male without incident inside a residence on the 500 block of 20th Street West. Officers seized more than $48,000 worth of cash, jewelry, and shoes, hydromorphone tablets, THC dabs, cell phones, and a digital scale. 2 25-year-old men and a 26-year-old man were also charged as a result of the investigation. All were transported to police custody pending their first court appearance. I keep getting woken up late at night, Jeff. Are we going to get any of this rain in the daytime, or is it all overnight showers for us?
There's a joke there. But anyhow, all I'm going to simply say is, yes, the thunder and lightning, it certainly woke a lot of people up, myself included. And the rain was coming down pretty hard in Saskatoon and in other locations. We can simply tell you that this low-pressure area that's slowly cycling around is going to continue to make its way northward. Unfortunately, the rain will get to some parts of the wildfire areas, not all parts, and it may not be in the bring the amount of precipitation that we really want, but we'll talk more about these circumstances later on.
A Swift Current man living in Texas is in critical condition after a rattlesnake bite. Daniel Fair was in Odessa, Texas for work and was on the golf course on July 30th. He was bitten on the ankle by a rattlesnake, and it was discovered that he's allergic to snake venom. He went into anaphylactic shock and has been in the ICU, heavily sedated and intubated ever since. Doctors say his organs have healed, but his brain hasn't woken up due to swelling.
And our whole world is laying in a hotel bed, in a hospital bed, and we don't know what the future is going to bring for us. It's scary. I don't wish this on anybody.
Us kids are definitely going to grow up a lot faster so quickly. My brother stepped in as the man of the house. He's helping pay for things and provide. And then my little brother just grown up too quickly.
A GoFundMe has been started to help the family cover the costs of medical expenses. It's raised over $12,000 so far. The United Church of Canada today apologized to the LGBTQ community for decades of harm, exclusion, and discrimination. The apology was issued during a general council meeting in Calgary and live streamed to congregations across Canada. In Regina, church members gathered at Lakeview United Church to hear the apology and pledge to continue work towards inclusion in the future.
And so we're affirming today that we just really accept all people for who they are, that we want to let all people know they are beloved children of God, and that our work is not done.
The apology follows a decade of consultations about the experiences of the Two-Spirit and LGBTQ community within the United Church of Canada. After the break, to how to enjoy the outdoors on your ATV, Jasmine Pelche finds out some valuable tips and tricks to stay safe while riding. It's a popular hobby and a trusted mode of transport for many in Saskatchewan, but it's important to know how to ride your ATV safely. Jasmine Pelche chats with the Saskatchewan ATV Association to learn about safety and some valuable tips to get the most out of your machine.
How popular is ATVing in Saskatchewan?
Well, the first thing we got to understand is that there's three general uses for ATVs. There's work, like linemen and people like that. There's farming is huge. A lot of farmers use all-terrain vehicles. They also use them for recreation, but mostly it's on the farm and a piece of machinery. And then there's the whole group of recreational riders. It's really popular. It boomed during the COVID lockdown because it was an acceptable activity because you weren't really near anybody. You just go out on the trail by yourself. And it's just continued to grow with the introduction of the side-by-sides. That really opened up the market because now people who weren't, either physically able or not interested in sitting on a quad, the one you straddle, the side-by-side offered an alternative that was a little less physically demanding.
What are some of the top causes of accidents?
Well, probably number one is what we call stunting, or else driving beyond your capabilities. It's driving too fast, trying to take a corner too fast. You're not prepared. And, all-terrain vehicles are designed to be used on rough surfaces and going over small trees and rocks and, climbing hills and descending hills. And that in itself means that you've got to be really on top of your game because sometimes you'll hit something like a rock and it might throw you off your game. A lot of our injuries and a lot of the worst accidents are because of a rollover. And when especially on a quad, when you roll over you're ejected, and you know, that's when you can be injured badly. Ride within your means. Don't drink and ride. Drinking impairs judgment, it impairs reaction time. And when I said before, when you're on an ATV, you know, quite often you're going to get into situations where, you know, you have to react quite quickly. And if you're not ready and you're not on top of your game, that can lead to a problem. The other thing is wear the equipment. Now, not wearing a helmet or goggles, which are the two that are required by law, won't cause an accident pretty much, but they mitigate the impact. So if you're in a rollover, quite often there's a head impact, and if you're hitting something like a tree or rock or the ground, it can be very serious. A helmet will mitigate that. Goggles are really important, because if you're going at a reasonable pace, even 20, 30 miles an hour, or 20 or 30 kilometers an hour, you get something in your eye, like a bug or something, or debris or something hits you, it can startle you, it can cause you to swerve, it can, that can lead to problems as well.
Are there any regulations that people might not be aware of in Saskatchewan?
There's a couple that I think people aren't aware of. And number one is, in a side-by-side, even though you're contained inside a roll bar and you've got a roof normally, you're still required to wear a helmet, because your head can come in contact with the roll bar on a rollover or a collision of sorts. And you also have to wear the goggles. The other thing is that the law requires that if there's a seat belt in the side-by-side, which most are equipped with, it has to be worn, just like in a car. And that's really important, because if the side-by-side gets into a rollover situation, the seat belt, like a car, can keep you inside and compartmentalized, and you're not going to be ejected out the side, which in the past has caused some serious injuries.
Is there anything we didn't speak about that it's important to make note of?
We've seen incidents of problems where young, especially really young people, children, are riding on adult-sized quads or side-by-sides, and they just don't have the strength or the dexterity to properly control them. So, I mean, there are ATVs built for smaller children and for, teenagers and tweens, I guess you could call them, that are of less power, and they're, for the really young ones, they'll have maybe what's called a kill switch, which the parents can control. And we highly recommend, especially with the younger ones, that they be supervised, because if they're not supervised, they sometimes will get themselves into trouble and run into things.
Thank you for sharing that information with me, John.
Not a problem.
Still ahead, Jeff has your weekend weather forecast, and often overlooked bone health is just as important for men as women. So, Jeff, I look behind you, and it looks a lot clearer than I think it probably is in reality right now in Prince Albert. So what do we have? Well,
we've got a really active storm, a robust low-pressure area and a storm system that is making its way from southern Saskatchewan, sort of anchored right now down around the, let's say the corners of the provinces and the states there, but continuing to make its way northward. Now, we'd really like it to go far north and get a lot of this precipitation into the fire zones. Those areas are just going to be on the edge of the system, unfortunately, but we're hoping some of that rain does make it up there. It just won't be as much in evidence as it is in other places. So there's that low-pressure area continuing to cycle its way through Saskatchewan into Manitoba. Manitoba and parts of Ontario could be in for a real mess. And on the backhand side of it, as you can see, we're getting a lot in the way of rain. And another system is going to show up. This is not clear sailing by any means. So overnight tonight, we've got ourselves the possibility of some showers. They don't show up on the icons here, but trust me, the possibility of some rain showers and risk of thunderstorms is certainly there in the Lakeland region. Spirit Woods overnight temperature 12 degrees, 14 for the Battlefords, 13 for Candle Lake, Birch Hills, Roster, and Milford, and Nipawin. And then as we make our way into tomorrow, well, the rain continues from many areas. We expect it to taper off mid-afternoon, but right now we're looking at least in the Prince Albert area, but in and around Prince Albert, yes, we are dealing with showers. 22 for a high in Spirit Wood, 23 for the Battlefords, 21 in Rostron, 19 in Candle Lake and Birch Hills, 16 the expected daytime highs in both Nipawin and Melfort. Now on to our detailed forecast for Prince Albert and area. We've got ourselves temperatures of 13 tonight, the overnight temperature, and a risk of thunderstorms going on. Well, I shouldn't say a risk of thunderstorms. We're anticipating thunderstorms and rain at times, heavy winds out of the north at 20. The wind speed and direction does not change as we make our way into Saturday, but the chance of showers backs off a little bit. 20 for a daytime high, so certainly below seasonal, but not a surprise with the precipitation. 25, though, back to seasonal temperatures on Sunday. 22 on Monday, 21 on Tuesday. Wednesday, partly cloudy or mainly cloudy skies, and 19, and then a bit of a cool Thursday with a chance of showers and 18 degrees on Friday. So that's how things are shaping up in the 7 days for the Gateway City and area. So a bit of a cooling trend, but not that much rain as we roll into the latter part of next week.
I always thought in the northern hemisphere it was supposed to drain clockwise. That looked like counterclockwise.
Oh, you and your science.
There you go. Well, the bats came out when they needed to for the Saskatoon Berries, who have forced a deciding Game 3 in their East Division semifinal.
And this one hit well. It'll get into center field, and that's going to, well, score one, scores two.
The Berries pulled out to a 10-0 lead in the 5th inning before the Moose Jaw Miller Express could get a single runner home. The Berries were led by Corey Woders and Carter Beck, who each drove in 4 runs en route to a 15-6 win in Moose Jaw. Merrick Yager threw 6 innings on the mound, getting credit for the win. Game 3 goes tonight at Cairns Field in Saskatoon. The winner will face the Regina Red Sox, who swept Medicine Hat last night. The Saskatoon Hilltops begin their quest for a national championship this weekend when they head to Winnipeg. As Matt Young reports, this year's team includes a little Rough Riders experience.
It was amazing. Yeah, no, it was a great experience there. I couldn't have asked for a better time.
Jonathan Stevens in there, and unfortunately,
it's some green and white flavor mixed with blue and gold. Hilltops D lineman Jonathan Stevens says he's bringing his Riders preseason game and camp experience to the Saskatoon Hilltops this year.
You know, they're very technical there from the pros to here. It's never more apparent that 1 inch can make or break a play.
John's awesome. You know, as I said, such a great kid. He's had a great career here in All-Canadian, and for him to get that feather cap to go to Rider camp and perform as well as he did and then come back here.
The 6'2", 292-pound lineman says he learned a lot while spending time with the Rough Riders, and Coach Tom Sargent expects he'll be a major presence on a strong defense for the Hilltops.
As a Michaelic, who was an all-star last year on the home, is going to be unbelievable at the nose guard. Then you go, Jace Moles will be our shutdown corner. We got a lot of good players. You know, at the end of the day, defense should be a strength of this football team.
The Hilltops will see a changing of the guard on offense. With the departure of Trey Reeder, that means backup quarterbacks Brexton Elias, Charlie Mulder, or Hayden McMahon will have to step into the starting role. But head coach Tom Sargent is keeping his cards close to the vest.
They've all done the right things. They had great off seasons, and you know, we're sort of letting it all develop. And you know, ultimately, we're looking for someone to kick the door down and say, "Hey, this is my team."
And motivation is as high as ever after losing to the Regina Thunder in last year's conference title game.
Players have talked about it. We want a championship, and I think we're going to do anything we can to win that.
The Hilltops will open the regular season this weekend in Winnipeg before returning for their home opener on August 17th. Matt Young, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Do you have a community event you would like to promote? Or maybe you'd like to draw attention to your organization. Let your local CTV station help you spread the word. Contact us at 306-922-6020 or email panews@ctv.ca. You can appear on CTV Prince Albert's News at 5 and get your message to our viewers.
Osteoporosis is a disease that's often overlooked by men, but the condition doesn't discriminate based on gender. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gator explains why men should also focus on bone health.
At 40 years old, Brad Barbin was prescribed steroids for a condition. Because of that medication, he was told his bone health was at risk, something he'd never thought about before.
I had played football and rugby after college, and so never really worried about breaking bones until somebody says, yours are at risk for fractures, if not worse.
Because of that, Barbin says he started walking 3 to 5 miles a day to help maintain bone strength. Regular exercise and resistance training can help prevent osteoporosis, says Dr. Paul Lewis with the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center.
Exercise is medicine.
Lewis says some in the U.S. don't see bone density as a top health concern, but it can significantly impact a person's life, especially as they age.
If you have the diagnosis of osteoporosis, you're 4.5 times increased risk of a spinal fracture. And men particularly, they have more complications and more poor outcomes after an osteoporotic fracture than women.
Now at age 68, Barbin says he feels great and encourages all men to focus on bone health.
The best thing you can do is do your annual checkup. Listen to them when they tell you you need to take a bone density test. Just do it, and you have a much better idea of what your next 10 years are going to look like.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
So, Jeff, it's Friday afternoon, and this could probably be a serious story, but we're going to have some fun with it. The latest from Q Branch, a BC police department has roped a new way to catch criminals.
Rap, 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 and we run up and grab our subject.
Abbotsford Police are the first jurisdiction in the country cleared to use Bola wraps. They're a non-lethal device that shoots a rope around a fleeing suspect's legs to bring them down. The police force brought 6 devices on board for about $2,000 each. And I'm wondering, this is the perfect moment for Acme's giant fish catching, what do you call that, the fish net?
Well, it's like, look, you know, it's good they're going looking for non-lethal sort of situations, but it's like, hey, don't move. Don't move. Don't you move. Get out the bolo. It's like, what if someone's moving? You know, it's anyhow.
We're getting our inspiration a little bit too much from Looney Tunes with that one. We'll see. But
Wile E. Coyote.
Exactly. I was waiting for him to make an appearance. That'll do it for us. Have a great weekend. National News is next.